Uhuru, good morning. Black is back. What an incredible mobilization we had yesterday. Oh yeah, it was really great. Beautiful weather. We had a great response, and we really had an exciting time. It looked really powerful. And just want to thank all of you for coming in from out of town. If you're from out of town, for those of you who are in town, for supporting, for promoting the mobilization. So today we are set for an exciting program. So my name is Yejide Oromila. I will be one of the MCs. I will be the MC in-house today, and I'm going to be joined by our comrades Elike and Goma, who will be on Zoom, and I believe Lisa Davis too, who will also be on Zoom. So with that, I just want to welcome you to the room and welcome you and everyone who's listening online to the program. And let's get right to it. So I'm going to bring up next my comrade Elike and Goma, who's going to introduce our steering committee.
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Yejide, for that introduction. My name is Elike Ngoma. I'm the secretary of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And I want to, thank and welcome everybody again to participating with us for our 15th annual Black People's March on the White House mobilization held every November for 15 years, and which is followed by the Black People's Conference, which we are in today. The theme for this weekend has been not one step backwards. FBI attacks Black Liberation Movement again. Drop the charges now. So right now I will be doing a presentation of the steering committee. The Black is Back Coalition is an organization currently made up of 17 organizations that span the political and ideological spectrum of the Black community and the Black Liberation Movement. We are united by our principles of unity, and also we work around our 19-point platform, the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. And the first portion of the steering committee is the coordinating committee, which is responsible for the day-to-day work of the coalition. First, we have our leader, Chairman Omali Ishatella, who is the chair of the Black is Back Coalition, its founder, as well as the chairman and representative as an organizational member of the African People's Socialist Party. We have Sister Lisa Davis, the vice chair, who is also the chair of the Healthcare Working Group. Sister Lisa Davis has been with the Black is Back almost since the beginning, so very long time. Myself, Elike Ngoma, the secretary. We have Sister Ikinge Mayele, who is our logistics coordinator. And those are the forces responsible for the day-to-day work of the Black is Back Coalition. Next, we have our steering committee, which are the organizational representatives and our working group leaders. Dr. Matsimela Odom, who represents the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. He is the international president of NPDUM and its organizational representative as a Black is Back member. And he's also the chair of the Black Community Control of the Police Working Group. Sister Betty Davis, who represents the New Abolitionist Movement. Brother Ralph Pointer, who represents the Lynn Stewart organization. Sister Betty Davis is also the chair of the Education Working Group, and Brother Ralph is the chair of the Free All Political Prisoners Working Group. Brother Ajamu Baraka, who represents the Black Alliance for Peace as an organizational member. Brother Dawood Khalik, who represents Reparations United Front, and is the chair of the Reparations Working Group. Sister Belinda Parker Brown, who represents the Louisiana United International. Reverend Edward Pinkney, who represents the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization as an organizational member of the Black is Back Coalition. Jihad Abdulmamit, representing Jericho Movement. Yejide Orunmila, our MC for today, one of our MCs, who represents the African National Women's Organization. Brother Life Malcolm, who represents the Black People's Advancement and Defense Organization. Brother Zaki Baruti, who represents the Universal African People's Organization. I believe he's there in the house in Washington, D.C. We have from the West Coast, the Joko Collective as an organizational member represented by Sister Tasha Thomas, Brother Yusef Imhotep, and Sister Jamila Feemster. Operation Stop CPS, represented by Amanda Wallace. Brother Paul Pumphrey, who is the co-founder and the representative of Friends of the Congo. Brother Robert War Williams, who is the chairman of the Black Panther Party San Diego and the representative of that organization in the Black is Back. Brother Cam Howard, also participating in person, Reparations United. Our founding member, Glenn Ford, who represented the Black Agenda Report. So we say long live, we keep this in his memory. And also we keep in memory Dr. Zena Crenshaw Logo, who was a member of the Louisiana United International, who participated with the Black is Back in multiple events and conferences and became a member as well. So these are the organizations that make up the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And you know, if you know someone who leads a Black community organization, that when they read or when you read our national Black political agenda for self-determination, or our principles of unity, you say, you know what, this is me, I can do this, then we're calling for you to join the Black is Back Coalition by visiting blackisbackcoalition.org. Uhuru. And now I will be introducing our keynote speaker for today. Just allow me a second to pull up his bio. Yes, for our opening presentation, we will be hearing from Chairman Omali Ishitela. Omali Ishitela is the founder and chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and chair of the Black is Back Coalition. The chairman is a veteran of the Black Revolution of the 60s, the leader of the Uhuru movement, and chairman of the African Socialist International. He is also a political theoretician and the founder of the Burning Spear newspaper. And as far as political theory, he is the founder of the theory of African internationalism as well. Chairman Omali Ishitela is the author of many books, including An Uneasy Equilibrium, The African Revolution versus Parasitic Capitalism, Vanguard, The Advanced Detachment of the African Revolution, and his recent re-release, The Verdict is in, Reparations Now, a 40-year commemoration of the World Tribunal on Reparations to African People. So with that being said, it's an honor to introduce Chairman Omali Ishitela, who will be providing our opening presentation. Uhuru, Chairman.
Thank you, Sister Comrade Secretary Alethea. And I want to express my appreciation to everybody who's participating in this important component of the traditional mobilization that we do here in Washington, D.C., that we've done for the last, this being the 15th year. The second is always a conference. And of course, when we initiated this mobilization, it was in the wake of the FBI assault on the African liberation movement in this country, something that we hadn't seen since the 1960s in terms of the intensity and the flagrance of the assault on the rights of African people in our liberation movement. We had the Black is Back Coalition passed a resolution in opposition to what the FBI had done, recognizing that this was the proverbial canary in the coal mine, that they had declared war on the African liberation movement again. So it opposed the FBI and it expressed solidarity and support to the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. And that was really important. And so we had determined that this mobilization this year, on the 15th annual mobilization, would also be a fight back. It would be a part of a counteroffensive that's made by the government against our movement. And we had been struggling now for many, many years to reunite an African liberation movement that had been smashed through murder, assassination, mass jailings, and things like this, stuff that many people in this room may not be familiar with and only have a relationship through newsreels and videos that you might see waxing nostalgic about the 1960s and something like that. But people died. People were arrested. Malcolm X was murdered. And I think it's worth saying this, and I'm trying not to get diverted from some of the things that we need to talk about, but I was talking to a comrade a moment ago about the whole relationship that we have to the electoral process in this country. I'm talking specifically about African people and how it was only in 1965 that universal suffrage was acquired in this country legally. And that was as a consequence of struggles of African people fighting for the right just to register to join Joe Biden's organization. But it was also George Wallace, and you don't know who that was, you're too young, organization. And so through like a murder and things like that, we fought through it. 1965, the right to vote was declared universal. But then also in 1965, the thing that happened was Malcolm X was assassinated. In 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. I'm talking about people of tremendous significance to the struggle of Black people in this country. 1969, Fred Hampton was assassinated. 1969, the assault on the Panther 21 with 21 members of the Black Panther Party picked up right there in New York, the Panther 21 for on a bogus charge of conspiracy to blow up the flowers in the botanical garden and other kinds of things like that. I mean, there were a huge number of charges attached to these comrades. In 1969, a week after the attack on the Black Panther and murder of Fred Hampton, in December, they attacked the office of the Black Panther Party in Los Angeles, California. Incredible shootout developed because they were waiting in California after what had happened there. But the point I wanted to make is that by now, we've got the right to vote, that Black people really died, paid a huge price for. And I'm saying this because I don't want to understate the role that African people played in creating what is characterized as democracy in this country. Universal suffrage, right to assemble, all kinds of laws which sprang out of the struggle of Black people just to participate in the electoral process. But by now, what is happening is that Malcolm's dead, King's dead, the Panther Party under siege. And in fact, J. Edgar Hoover has declared that the Black Panther Party represents the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States since the Civil War. So the African liberation movement is under attack. and their leaders assassinated, members of the organizations dispersed around the world, and others, and part of that dispersal underground, running for their lives. And so now you have the right to vote, but you got nothing to vote for. Because it was Malcolm, who was telling us, he didn't just say the ballot or the bullet. He was saying this in the context of the unwillingness of the United States to utilize the electoral process in a way that was going to contribute to the power of Black people. Martin Luther King's Poor People's Campaign, remember that? That he had kicked off, and it was supposed to be much more revolutionary than what happened to it. But King is dead, so and the Black Liberation Movement on the run. So now we can vote. We have nothing to vote for. The leaders of our movement have been killed, scattered, jailed, and what have you. And the only political organization that's supposed to now be our organization is the Democratic Party. No. And this is how African people end up in this horrible reliance on the Democratic Party as the only alternative. There is nothing on the Democratic Party's platform, never has been, that represented Malcolm's X program. Malcolm talked to Black people about the politics of Black nationalism. Control your own community. You control the economics, your politics, your own community. There was nothing on there about the Poor People's Campaign that King had led about, and certainly the 10-point platform of the Black Panther Party was nowhere to be seen. Only program you had access to was the Democratic Party. And then what happens, of course, is because there's nothing on there for us, it doesn't take long for African people to realize it doesn't make sense to vote. So they talk about the apathy of Black people in terms of the electoral process, but the state, the colonial state, doesn't want Black people to vote. If they wanted Black people to vote, then you find reparations on the ballot. We're fighting like beasts just to get them to talk about reparations. We can even get reparations out of committee so that it can be discussed and voted on, and we're scared to get it out of committee, because if we do get it out of committee, there's definitely the case where those sectors of the bourgeoisie who are connected to the Democratic Party is not going to let it happen. So here we are, our community, our people. And there is also the African People's Socialist Party, because we were founded in 1972 as an organization, but we came out of SNCC and other kinds of organizations where we were waging incredible struggle, discussion. It was we, SNCC, who introduced the question of the Palestinian issue that was really made really serious, pronounced presence in this country was SNCC. And I would also remind everybody here, it was what was characterized as the Black Muslims who actually introduced the issue of Islam that would unite Arabs and Muslims around the world with the struggle of Black people. And we'll say some more about that moving forward. But during the 1960s, our movement had achieved a very serious level of clarity. We were already in struggle, huge debates happening within the movement. That's not discussed now. See Martin Luther King, see Malcolm X, and there are fairy tales being told about the differences and things like that. But there's always been two trends of struggle existing in the African community. One trend was to try to make the plantation a better place to live on the plantation. And the other was talking about ridding ourselves of a relationship to the plantation one way or the other, as Malcolm would say, by any means necessary. So you always had those two trends, those existing inside our community. And it had reached an apex of really intellectual struggle in the African community. And people were raising the question, what is the relationship between race and class? And people were looking at the issue of nationalism in Vietnam, and Frantz Fanon was one of the forces who was influencing this movement. And we had talked, we were beginning to talk about colonialism. In fact, we were. Black Panther Party, you go back to it, you see colonialism. And it was something that, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, when it came out for Black Power, which is different from a position of integrating into the system, it was Black Power. And when you start talking about power as an oppressed people, you're struggling against colonialism. It threw the African movement in this country in alignment with oppressed peoples all around the world. This is the 1960s. 1962, 66, this magnificent meeting happened in Havana, Cuba, the so-called Tricontinental Conference, where people came from all around the world, and they were dealing with the question of colonialism. And you had some of the most noted revolutionary leaders of our times were there in Havana, Cuba. So the colonial question had begun to dominate the issue. But this government, in the process of killing people, was not just killing individuals, there was an assault on ideas. And so a sector of the population, Africans in this country, who came out in terms of their views achieving supremacy, their views achieved supremacy, not because of some great democracy, so the Black people said everybody's okay. It achieved supremacy because the United States government killed and jailed another sector of the population that wouldn't settle for anything short of self-determination. So it was a struggle against colonialism. That happened. And I was there for much of it, and others, were there as well. So concretely, that was the situation. So the party was founded as a part of this trajectory toward self-determination, anti-colonialism. And we were founded in the heat of the murder of revolutionary leaders, destruction of our organizations, and we stated as our objective to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. And part of what had happened to us is now we see people who are doing a lot of work everywhere. People are really busy doing work. But there was no central to what end. It was just, yeah. So you can get on a treadmill and run your ass off. That's what people get on treadmills for sometimes, right? But you're not going any place at all. So the thing was to give some coherence, cohesion. And the Black Revolution had been crushed militarily before many of the ideological questions that we were touching with had been resolved. But the African People's Socialist Party, we continued to exist, and we took those ideas, we took those programs, we took Malcolm, as SNCC said, what did SNCC say to the white people who were members of SNCC? Anybody remember? He said, go to the white community. This is where the source of the contradictions are. Go there, organize white people. And they were so wounded. They were, they were wounded. It's all that we've done and how much we love you, etc. And yes, go to the white community. Convince your mama and people in your community, go there and make the struggle. SNCC said that in 1966. There was a reason for it, too. And then we found the Black Liberation Movement had been isolated. When I say isolated, the handful of militants trying to make stuff happen. But there's a whole world out there. There's a world of people inside this country. There are Mexicans and other indigenous people. There are white people who live here, and et cetera. So there's this world out here. And then there's this movement without ideological coherence. Can't see beyond the treadmill. And so we took it as a strategic objective. We determined as a strategic objective to pull this movement together. Not only to pull this movement together, to win support of the Black Revolution, the Black Liberation Movement by peoples all around the world. That we were not asking for people to give us charity. We're saying give us solidarity. It should not have been possible for them to kill Fred Hampton in Chicago there, and had not been massive uprisings by white people. It shouldn't have been possible for Malcolm X to be murdered in New York, and there not being any outcry, any motion by white people in this country. It shouldn't have been possible so that the only response to the death of Martin Luther King of significance came from Black people who mobilized such a serious threat that you had the Capitol surrounded by tanks because they didn't know how well Black people were organized at that time. That shouldn't have been possible. So we had to end the isolation of the movement for self-determination. So part of what we've done, we built African People's Socialist Solidarity Committee. We built the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. We built relationships with peoples all around the world who had to win them to unite with what it is that we are struggling for. Like all other people with dignity, you want to be self-determined and you want to be able to say, I know my child will have a future because that future's in my hand. Not to be placed in a situation of groveling all the time to win favor from some sector of the ruling class. It's such a humiliating thing. Our children learn to grovel too through this kind of thing. And so we pulled together this movement. It was on September 12th, 2009, right here in Washington, D.C., where we held the first meeting to build a coalition of Black people who could be united around the principles of self-determination. So it wouldn't be just each of us out there doing our own thing, running around doing stuff, but that we could come to some general unity around self-determination, be different organizations. And the objective was not to try to replace any of those organizations, but to give every one of those organizations more strength and capacity by the relationship we had to coalition. That's what it was all about. And also to give a common trajectory to our struggle. Self-determination means different things to different people. It does mean, and people can accept that Black people should be in charge of our own affairs. And so we have different ideas about what that means. We have different ideas about how to go and get it. We, like Malcolm X, would say by any means necessary. The fact of the matter is the African People's Socialist Party, we're preparing to govern. We're preparing to govern, right? Which is one reason some people are upset with us. And it's not just, it ain't just the bourgeoisie. I mean, the white left scared of Black people. I mean it in the same way that white people are scared of Black people. You know what I'm saying? You know, just don't go there after dark and to the communities and stuff like that. And, you know, those are contradictions that's real. And they're not contradictions that's not founded on some material basis. I was in California many, many years ago. And there had been this group of Africans who were doing these house, how do you know, when people charge into the house, what do you call it? House invasions. And in Nob Hill, the rich sector of San Francisco, they were doing these house invasions. And they were being very brutal to the white people that they captured. And they had captured a couple of them, and they were on trial. And this white woman who was testifying on the trial, she said when they had done, they really brutalized, beat her husband up really bad, really badly, and she said from the stand, she said, I thought the revolution had come, and they got to our house first. And the point that I'm making is there's this deep-seated assumption that's there, even if it's not talked about, that they're gonna get back at us, right? And that's why we would always hear when we say Black power, we say, but what about the white people? So you're gonna have to start taking care of yourself. But anyway, so we've been working to build things and working to rebuild like a revolutionary moment. That's why we pulled this coalition together. That's why we've been marching for the 15th year, trying to win the African masses, the African organizations to an actual practical kind of relationship, practical activity, and then to demonstrate to masses of people that self-determination is all right. And we named the coalition Black is Back Coalition. And we named it Black is Back because Obama had just been elected. And they were preaching this nonsense about a post-racial society. And I think Obama himself said that the majority of the racism or something had gone away. And he had become the template for how intelligent Black people should look and function. You know, he's so cool. Yeah. And so we had to contend with this. And African people, you know, became absolutely hysterical in terms of assuming that this person who had been chosen as the new face for colonial white power was really going to do something for us. I got a text from a dear friend whose brother, we came to know each other because her brother had been murdered in St. Petersburg, Florida, by the police. And we had built a real case and struggle around that. And she's texted me and she said, all the white people need to report to the cotton fields at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that was some assumption about, you know, that's proved to be erroneous. I just wanted to say some things. Picking cotton ain't easy. Picking cotton is not easy. So I just want to say some things like this is what mobilized us. Try to build this coalition. This is why every year we've been doing that and trying to win. We built a Black is Back coalition for social justice, peace, and reparations because the traditional white peace movement, anti-war movement would walk over the bodies of Black people in this country and various other places to go find a war that they had to protest. We saw them laying in front of trains. Remember the guy laid down in front of the trains and got, and you know, to keep weapons. I think this may have been weapons for somewhere in the Americas that the U.S. was sending. Nicaragua. Yeah, it was. And so, you know, say, lay down in front of one of these patrol cars coming into the African community. I mean, you know, take some stance and solidarity. They couldn't say that. And many people cannot see and understand the concept of an African being self-determinant. That's why they would charge me with working for the Russians, with the assumption that people would believe I'm working for the Russians because African people have no agency of our own. So and they used to do books. I've seen them. They would write about Kenya and all these places with the noble, innocent savages. That's us, right? Who would come in, the Russian and communists would come in and corrupt us, etc. So this is, you know, like, this is what, you know, what we, you know, are contending with and have to contend with right now. And so the coalition came about to unite our movement and to put us in motion. And then we had to have our own movement that dealt with peace. Not just the peace that has achieved a lot of notoriety in the media, peace in our communities. I mean, you can get the records of how many African people are killed by police every day in this country. Not just that, we're talking about peace for the Palestinians. We're not talking about peace for Palestinians. Not just the Palestinians, but the people in the Philippines. War all the time going on, ignored. Not just the Philippines, but Haiti, our Haiti, all over Africa, war. In fact, the United States had more than 100 wars going on just a couple of years ago, and probably more than that all over the continent of Africa. Military incursions, etc. So we said, the peace movement has got to be something, and this is what we always hear. They hear from the notorious left, well, where are the black guys, right? The anti-war movement. I mean, polls showed that there were more Africans by far opposed to the war in Vietnam than white people. There were more Africans by far initially opposed to the war in Iraq, etc. You didn't see Africans in these demonstrations. So where are the white people, the black people? Where are the black guys? The black guys are fighting the goddamn war here. You understand? And you have to, that's why we had to build as the Black is Back Coalition, not only as a so-called peace movement, but as an instrument for the liberation of our people. It's advancing the liberation of our people. Palestine, people who are in Gaza, they're not fighting to see who's got the best peace movement. They're fighting for their very lives. That's the same thing is true with African people here. So I just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that yesterday was extraordinary. And we had a lot of tussles with that. We had built for this thing for a long time. Part of the theme of this for a long time, for almost a year, was drop the charges. Drop the charges, because the federal government attacked us in a way similar in terms of character than what they're doing right now in Gaza. And drop the charges now. And we said we're not taking one step backwards. This whole attempt to push us back to a previous era of submission, you can forget it. We're not taking one step backwards. That's part of the whole theme for this thing. And we had hoped, we had thought this time, after 14 previously failed attempts, we would be able to win what calls itself a white peace movement, an anti-war movement, to join with Black people right here. We had thought that we were going to be able to pull that together, support the struggle for Black liberation. We have noticed over and over again how it was much easier for white people to discover the war in El Salvador, and they couldn't find it right there in Detroit where they were living, or they couldn't find it here in Washington, D.C. And what happens, of course, is they use those wars in El Salvador and other places as excuses for why they're not uniting with the struggle of Black people. They can't even imagine, they can't fathom the idea of Black people not being satisfied with this relationship with the Democratic Party or a new rights bill or a new, nicer, kinder liberal in office. They could not fathom that. And so that's part of what it is that we had to deal with. And so that's how we were moving. Then while we were in the middle of this, we got a notification from forces who we had been trying to get to join with us without any success, white left forces, that a mobilization was happening, another mobilization was happening on the 4th of November. And so they never even responded to us when we asked them to participate. They never even responded to us when we asked them to even speak at the event. The only time we heard from them is when we saw a notification that they were organizing a contending mobilization, and which would give the appearance that there's some kind of contradiction or contention between Africans and Palestinians. And nothing could be further from the truth, never has been. And we'll say some more about that today, because part of this will be a teach-in about that relationship between Africa and Palestine, Africans and Palestine. And also, we think it's really important to expose this entity that they call Israel, and to look at this philosophy, ideology of Zionism, because this has been part of what you can't talk about. To talk about these kinds of things actually would get you censored. We had a demonstration in London on yesterday as well. And it was a small demonstration at the US Embassy. But for the first time, you have the London police, they don't carry guns. They had guns for this. They had machine guns and what have you, just for a few of us. But in London, they had also prohibited any demonstrations at the Israeli embassy. They had prohibited people from using the slogan from the river to the sea. That's illegal. You go to jail for saying from the river to the sea. In London, this is the kind of stuff that's out there. So, but the Palestinian question, despite that, if I understand it, a few million people may have come out in London in support of the Palestinians. I understand that possibly the other Palestinian entity demonstration that happened may have had 1 million people on the 4th. And as quiet as it's kept, and however they perceive it. I mean, you saw even Obama has come out and said something that you got to be nicer to the Palestinians. He said something to the effect that none of us is without guilt, or something to that effect, in terms of what they're doing there. But the thing is that whatever was intended, the Palestinian question has busted it open. The question of Palestine, who've been fighting all these damn years for the longest period of time without any kind of solidarity, et cetera, is busted it open. And the Palestinians, just like you, in the sense that they have divisions and who believes what. Some of them will be quite open to just getting some food and water and stuff like that into as a solution, at least temporarily. And others understand that the existence of Israel has negated the existence of Palestine, and they move from that perspective. So we salute the unity that's being demonstrated with the struggle of Palestine. And we say also that what Palestine has contributed to is stuff we've been working on all this time, and that is to put the colonial question high on the radar. Although many of the Palestinian leaders don't want to talk about colonialism, the fact is people are talking about it, and even editorials in the New York Times concerned about how in universities and things like that, colonial question is the dominant question, is the primary question, not only for Palestine, but the oppression of Black people here and other places around the world. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Because this sister throwing her fist up, right? I'm not sure if it's a signal or a threat. All right, so let's go ahead and move it forward.
Uhuru. I'll try this one more time. Uhuru, everyone, and welcome. Again, I just want to say that my name is Lisa Davis, and I also echo the sentiment of everything that has been expressed so far. And I want to congratulate all who participated in that very powerful Black People's March on the White House. We're going to have our panel discussion, and this called "The FBI Attacks the Black Liberation Struggle, the Movement, Not One Step Backwards." And of course, as always, we are saying drop the charges against the Uhuru Three. Just for a few housekeeping guidelines during this panel, the panelists will be speaking 5 minutes with their presentation. We ask that all try to remain within those guidelines, and certainly after the panel discussion is going to be a Q&A. So anyone who has any questions that's in the Zoom room, please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A section, because it's just it's easier to capture all the questions that's in the Q&A instead of in the chat. And certainly if you are watching from any of our live streams, please put your Q&A in the comment sections. Our first presenter that we are going to have will be our sister, Betty Davis. She is, I hear a little echo going on. Sister Betty Davis. She is a former adjunct professor at Medgar Evers College and is the co-founder of the New Abolitionist Movement and a longtime activist for community control of education since the New York City school strike in 1967. She is also chair of the Education Working Group of the Black is Back Coalition. Welcome, Sister Betty. Uhuru.
Uhuru, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I want to apologize. We are in a different location than we normally are, and we're traveling, so there may be some background noises. As you know, this is about solidarity with Gaza and a discussion around colonialism and really defining what we mean when we say Black power these days. My problem is that I cannot get my head around the fact that people do not understand that homelessness is death. And if you understand that homelessness is death, and you look at the statistics on ethnic cleansing, because this is what gentrification is, then you will recognize that we are in solidarity with Gaza, whether we want to be that or not. The difference between us and them, and they're doing something about it. So in consequence of the fact that we are here and they are there, it has been decided by this empire that they're going to unite with Israel in the genocidal removal of the people of Palestine. And all you have to do is to look at the issue of 75 years and look at the Palestinian map. And you will understand that they have had this plan in place from the very beginning. I would recognize and recommend, I apologize if I said we're traveling. You would recognize that this plan has been in place from the very beginning. And I want to recommend that you go to listen to some of the chairman's discussions around Palestine and Israel. Because one of the things he said is if this was an attempt at freedom for the people who consider themselves Zionists, why didn't they take a state in Germany? Why didn't they take a state in Poland? Why didn't they go to the countries like the Ukraine where they were throwing them off cliffs and burning them alive for 4 years? Let's be real. This is fascism. This is racism. And its face is everywhere we are. So what we are saying to you is join the Black is Back Coalition. We have a philosophy. I'm not going to deal with whether or not the Black Coalition has true allies in the, as it was once said, the so-called white left. But I know when we organized to free Lynn Stewart, I know which white organizations who call themselves leftists did not join us. And it's the same ones who are not joining us now. Let's be real. I know who the people in the white left and even the white liberals did struggle with us for freedom. So what I am saying to you right now is pay attention to your environment. Look at your world. Read your world. This is what, Fran, you have been asked to do by Paola Freire. Read your world when they closed the public schools for charter schools that were run by corporations. Read your world when the police are killing our children as they enter into the streets. Read your world as we are ethnically cleansed out of the neighborhood that I'm in from 71% down to 31%, and we got a Black mayor. Read your world and join the Black is Back Coalition. Thank you.
Uhuru, And thank you so much, dear Sister Betty, for your presentation. Our next presenter is our brother, Ralph Pointer. And Ralph Pointer is a longtime human rights activist. He is the chair of the Political Prisoners Working Group for the Black is Back Coalition and also represents the Lynn Stewart Defense Committee. Brother Ralph, welcome. Uhuru.
Oh, my brothers and sisters, you have just heard a brief overview of what we have been looking at in this here American drama. Today, the world is witnessing another horrific event, the death of a people with a very little political public response. The parades that are being held are a weak response to the death of a people. What we are looking at today is not Palestine, but we are looking at ourselves. We talked for many years about struggling for Black power. We struggled for the vote to exercise power. And now is the time for us to exercise that power. We have the power for ever since we got the vote. We have been a third party encapsulated within the two major parties with no demands of our own. We have had examples of people fighting for power and representation. Most recently, we look at the IRA and the years that they fought, and then they had the right to join Parliament to present their position. When do we join government to present our position? And what is our position? Our position number one: free all political prisoners. And we understand that a young kid who doesn't understand walking down the street and who is arrested is a prisoner of politics, but he's not a political prisoner who understands and recognizes that he's giving up his life for the liberation of his people. We understand of the unjust laws that put poor Black people in jail for smoking a joint. They're a victim of the politics of a country, but they are not political prisoners. And so we must look to free those who understood, fought, died, and are in prison today because of their noble actions. Second, we must look at homelessness because we know ethnic cleansing and homelessness is death. It's the same whether you're in Gaza, Brooklyn, Los Angeles, Mobile, Jackson, Mississippi. It's the same, and it has the same results: death. While Mr. Biden is sending billions around the world to improve the imperial design of the Western world, we go along with it. We have our punked politicians. When I say punked, I want to be very clear. That's what a person who goes to jail and takes a bar of soap and goes to the bathroom at night by himself to get punked by the vicious elements in the jail. And we, my brothers and sisters, are punked by those who allow themselves to be punked because we vote for them. We practice political slavery. We have to stop. We have to stand up. We have to show courage. Do not say Black power unless you're willing to exercise Black power. The Democrats need us. We have our demands out there. We're going to sit on our hands until they give us what we want. Long, long, long overdue. Long live the Uhuru movement. Long live the struggle for liberation. And if you want to be an American, think this. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. That's what the Palestinians said. That's what we say. Whose side are you on? Not in the war. The right of return of the Palestinians to their homeland. Ralph Pointer, New Abolitionist Movement. This is our struggle. Thank you, my brothers and sisters.
Uhuru, and again, reiterating victory to Palestine and to the Black liberation struggle. Our next presenter is Dr. Maximella Odom, and Dr. Maximella Odom is the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. He also writes for the Burning Spear newspaper and co-hosts the Black Power Talks podcast for Black Power 96. Maximella is also a professor in Africana Studies who has published on a variety of issues pertaining to African liberation and revolutionary culture.
Yeah, let me see. I'm trying to connect.
Uhuru.
Video. Uhuru, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Very well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, Uhuru. So I'd like to salute Chairman Omali Shatella, chair of the Black is Back Coalition, also of the African People's Socialist Party, of which I'm a member. I'd like to also salute all of the steering committee members of the Black is Back Coalition, as well as the members and the leader of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, which really has made this weekend a remarkable and a fundamental weekend. I'm Maximella Odom, the international president of International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and we know that the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement was formed in 1991 by the African People's Socialist Party to defend the democratic rights of the African community, defend the African community against the onslaught of terror that was waged against the African community by the U.S. counterinsurgency, which not only imprisoned, of course, it imprisoned, it killed, it maimed people, but it also demoralized us, pushed African people out of political life. So the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement is organized for the purpose of bring Africans back into political life. We understand that self-determination is the highest form of democracy. I'm the chair of the Black Community Control Police Working Group, and that is also Black Community Control Police is one of the demands that we have as a part of the Revolutionary National Democratic Program, which is the mass program of the African People's of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. The reason why I say this is because we need a program because this year and Peter recently 2 months ago held our recent convention. It was titled "Deepening the Counteroffensive, Completing the Black Power Movement. This time we will win." And in understanding what it means to deepen the counteroffensive, that means to lead those campaigns in defense of the democratic rights of African people, to bring people back into political life. Recently I was reading a party manual called Our Standards of Party Life. If I'm correct, that comes out of actually some writings that Chairman Omali Shatella had done in the 1980s when the African People's Socialist Party was waging these mass campaigns in defense of the African community, a series of campaigns that led towards the formation of what was called the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and then eventually the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement, the organization in which I lead. And in it says the people are schooled through their own struggles. The people are schooled through their own struggles. And for me, that really underscores the remarkable aspect of what I witnessed in Los Angeles yesterday, what I witnessed from afar in DC, in South Africa, in London, what we witnessed last week with the teach-ins, the people being schooled through their own struggle. There was a comrade by the name of Jazz. Comrade Jazz is Palestinian. Comrade Jazz has been brought into political life as a part of the mobilizations that the Uhuru movement have led in Southern California. On November 4th, despite all the money, despite everything going on, Jazz hopped on the bus. I want to salute Unión del Barrio, you know, our fraternal organization out here, because they booked a bus to bring somewhat of 50 people from San Diego to Los Angeles for this mobilization. And this Palestinian comrade was on there, and this Palestinian comrade for the first time ever spoke at a political rally, our political rally that we held here in South Los Angeles. And we held it in South Los Angeles because just like Gaza, the African community here is under attack. Just like Gaza, the African community here is unhoused, people demoralized, people being driven out, people through gunpoint. We have to understand this, that the African people are not simply oppressed through the point of the bayonet, as through the point of production, as Chairman Omar Teller talks about, is through the point of the bayonet. But also understand that point of bayonet is the colonial mode of production. So it's that colonial mode of production that's going to free African people. It's going to overturn that colonial mode of production. It's going to free African people, free Palestinian people, free people, all oppressed people around the world. And you know what? So it's going to free white people from the culpability of living at the expense of other people for the last 600 years. This is what is so important, and this is why this was such an important event that I witnessed yesterday. 15 years, 15th annual Black People's March on the White House, with the material purpose of drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Understanding that not one step backwards, because the attack against the Uhuru 3 is meant to take us back to which our movement was in a defensive posture. But we know that the Black is Back Coalition, the Black People's March, the Black People's Conference that we have today, the Revolutionary National Democratic Program, the National Black Political Agenda places African people on the offensive for the first time, with the African working class being armed. I will say one last thing. Chairman Omar Teller has taught me this. There's any revolutionary organization has two strengths. That is a revolutionary ideology and the people. And what yesterday showed for me is we have both revolutionary ideology and the people. So let's continue on this path, not one step backwards. Uhuru.
Uhuru, and thank you so much, Brother Dr. Natsamela Odom. Our next presenter is Brother Dawood Khaliki. He's the chair of the Reparations Working Group. Is he by chance on the stream? We see Brother Dawood.
Yes, Brother Dawood is about to come and speak. He's here at the viewing party.
Thank you so very much. Let me give our brother his proper introduction. Brother Dawood Khaliki is from Jersey City, New Jersey, and he graduated from Henry Snyder High School, Soul Class of 1969, and attended the New Jersey City University, where he worked with the Black Student Union organization, the Black Freedom Society. He has worked in various organizations such as Unity in Action, SWAPO, Support Committee, the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. He is a charter member of the Reparations Platform Coalition. He's a member of the Reparations United Front, and he's also is currently the chair of the Black is Back Reparations Working Group. Brother Dawood Khaliki, welcome. Uhuru.
Uhuru, greetings to everyone. I really didn't have any prepared remarks, to give, but I just say that I think that this whole case and whatnot is a big scam and some made up stuff and whatnot that they do to bring chaos and whatnot to the Black liberation movement. As far as my reading has gone about the case, I don't see where they have one, because everything that they are being charged with sounds like it's some trumped up stuff. I mean, I just hope that they have the top legal team to go with them to court, and they did their homework and all their research and stuff, and to me, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what charges could they be guilty of that wasn't made up or put on them. As far as Palestinian Israel thing, there's a lot of missing disinformation going on about that. And I don't see, anybody on the major news media trying to give a balanced analysis and whatnot of the whole situation. They're leaving a lot out and they're trying to make Hamas is some kind of great villain, but they never say nothing about all the times that the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli police have, vamped on the Palestinian people and killed them, no defense, just surprise attacks, bulldozed their houses, ripped up all their crops out of the ground, destroyed the olive trees and things like that, and it just doesn't make any sense, that people are coming out saying what a horrible, group Hamas is, but the Israelis, continue their attacks on the civilians that live in Gaza, and it's just like it's no end, and they're defending that, which makes no sense to me. Anyway, I just want to, in brief, tell everybody that if they can, to get this book right here. It's called The Hidden History of Zionism, and it's by Ralph Schoenman. And this is the history and the beginning of everything that you see going on today. In this book, he tells you where it all started. All right.
1 minute.
So, get this book. It's Veritas Press. See if you go on their website and see if it's still in print. But this is the foundation of the whole situation. Historically, it gives how the British were in favor of manipulating and advocating for the state of Israel to be established in Palestine. And there's a document in there called the Balfour Declaration, which wrote all that out and declared it to be their intentions. And look what's happening today. So, everything is out of whack and off balance. And, there needs to be some balance brought to this situation. And I would say that the news people, who are reporting on these different situations that are happening, right up to today, need to get the whole story and not just try to skew it toward one group or another. All right. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. I'll just say forward ever, backward never, uhuru, and let's see if we can get this job done. All right. Peace and blessings.
Uhuru. And Brother Dawood, maybe you can put the name of the book again in the chat. Our next presenter is
It's called The Hidden History of Zionism, The Hidden History of Zionism by Ralph Schoenman. And this is the cover.
Okay, great. And if you could maybe type it in the chat, that would be great. And thank you so much. Our next presenter is Cam Howard, MBA. He is a national and international reparations activist. He is a former national co-chair of Incover. And while at Incover 2006 through 2022, he assisted in forming the vision and developed and developed and helped to lead and implement many actions in the reparations movement. In addition, Cam is the commissioner of the National African Reparations Commission, where he led in revising the federal legislation, H.R. 40. He sits on the board of the First Repair, founded by Robin Rue Simmons of Evanston, Illinois, and the Global Black was started by Dr. Amra Inya. Additionally, he sits on the advisory council of the African American Redress Network, and he's also the founder of Reparations United. And Cam, if I mispronounce the name of that organization, please correct me. But our brother Cam Howard, Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Sister Lisa. And Uhuru, greetings to the Uhuru family, the Black is Back Coalition, African People's Socialist Party, and PETM. Bring greetings and offer greetings to all these fronts on the front line of this struggle. My mantra is always, at this particular point, that we have a tremendous amount of power at this particular time. Power that we didn't intentionally set out to amass, but over the last 40 years of voting as a Democrat, as a population in this country, we have amassed a tremendous amount of power at this time. Before I talk about that, I just want to say quickly my analysis on the Israeli state from a reparations perspective. As I stated yesterday in my remarks, that the state of Israel was started as an action of repair for the Jews who were persecuted in Europe by Europeans that led to the Holocaust of Jews. 6 million Jews apparently were exterminated. And as a result of the war that ended World War II, there was actions within the then United Nations. It wasn't United Nations at the time, but it was actions within this international body to award and seek reparations for the persecuted Jews, those survivors of the Holocaust. And part of that reparations was compensation to the survivors. And the other part was the creation of the Israeli state. And so what we find with Israeli state is that they went into a nation that was inhabited by the Palestinians and attempted to settle and to remove the Palestinians from their own homeland over the last 75 years. So what we find is that in the course of repairing the harm that was done to these European Jews, they have implemented the same harms, the same crimes that they were supposed to be being repaired for. So how can you say that reparations is reparations when you create the same crimes that was done to you that you're attempting to repair from? So what we see in Israel, the state of Israel, is failed reparations. It's failed because they're continuing the crimes that are being committed against the Palestinian people. But in America, they talk about if you give Black people reparations, they're gonna, spend it on whatever, material things, and in an attempt to say that our reparations will fail. But we see with Israel what failed reparations look like. We see what failed reparations look like. It looks like crimes against humanity. It looks like genocide of the Palestinian people. That's what failed reparations look like. Don't ever talk about what our reparations will look like or what we would do with our reparations. Yeah. Just pay up because you owe it. This election is probably the most important election that we'll face or that we've had faced in our lifetime. Not because of what will happen after the election, but because of what we must do before the election. We have this tremendous power where the Democratic Party is totally dependent on the Black vote in order to win. They cannot win without the Black vote. They have no numerical possibility of winning without the Black vote. If we know that they have this dependency upon us, then we should be making demands before the election. And the reason we're not making these demands is because enough people do not know that this power exists. And it's our obligation, it's our duty to go out into the streets and to our communities and let our people know that we have this particular power and what do we want for it. Well, we want reparations. We will accept nothing less. In this country, unfortunately, they put us in this box where there has to be a commission before they do anything for on some important social justice issues. So in 1987, at the conclusion of the Japanese Commission, this government paid reparations to survivors of the internment of the Japanese during World War II. But that payment was as a result of a commission that was formed 6 years earlier. And it was after that commission was formed and came back with its findings that then a bill was introduced to actually pay them reparations. And so in 1989, Congressman Conyers said, we'll do the same, we'll follow this same method. We'll also put in the bill for a commission to study this issue of reparations for Black people in this country. And over the last 30 plus years, that's been the model that we've been trying to get forward. We did actually get this bill passed out of committee in 2021, in April of 2021 for the first time. The bill was passed out of the committee, but it was never brought to the floor for a vote. We passed it out of committee, out of Judiciary Committee in April of 2021, but the bill never passed out of, was brought to the floor. The leadership, which at the time was Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, and Jim Clyburn, the Black man in South Carolina who gave President Joe Biden his political life. Those three, in effect, prohibited the bill from coming to the floor for a vote. The bill will not come to the floor for a vote in this Congress. And even if it had passed in the House, it wouldn't have passed in the Senate last congressional session. So the only way a commission can be established in this country is through executive order. It's the only way. And this particular president, any president, has the power to create an executive order, to establish an executive order that will create a reparations commission. Joe Biden has a copy of an executive order bill for a reparations commission on his desk. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee has had several conversations with his staff around this executive order. The chair, the lead attorney in the Justice Commission, in the Judiciary Committee, crafted that executive order, calling for an HR 40 reparations commission through executive order. So he has it. It's not like something that we have to alert him to. He has that legislation before him. But we have to coerce him. We have to force him to do it. And we have this tremendous power in our possession. If we don't use it, then we don't use it now. You have all of these elements within this country where the Black vote is attempting to be minimalized. Mark Morial said 900 pieces of legislation, 900 pieces of legislation in the last presidential election was created by Southerners and the Republican Party to quash the Black vote. 900 pieces of legislation. The Republicans spent almost $1 billion in the last election to discredit Blacks from voting. And that's probably going to be exceeded this election. So we know that there are powers out there that are attempting to limit this power that we possess right now. When we talk about Black power, I'm saying we have Black power. We have Black voting power at this particular moment. One of the reasons we created the Electoral Candidate School, Chairman, was so that we could utilize the traditional electoral system to push for the Black agenda. We have an opportunity to push for this Black agenda on reparations right now, utilizing this current system, again, because we built unintentional power in the Democratic Party. People are saying, don't vote for Democratic. Well, we may come to that conclusion, but we don't come to that conclusion right now. Why would we tip our hand to what we're going to do? People are saying vote Republican. Some people may come to that conclusion later, but at this particular time, we are standing on the power that we possess. Some people say vote for a third party. We may do that at the time of the election, but right now, we all have to be saying the same thing. We have the power, you need us, you're dependent upon us, and you're not gonna get our vote unless you earn it. And the only way you can earn it is by engaging in the reparations, some type of reparations effort before the election, before the election. This is the most important election that we'll probably be into, not because, again, what's going to happen after the election, but what we do before the election. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so Uhuru, and thank you so much to our brother Cam Howard. Our next presenter is Charles Brown. And let me just say this. All these Black people in office, all politicians in office, they need to be listening to this and taking notes from our revolutionary freedom fighter who has led by example with his life about what it means to be in office and to be representing your people. Because I don't know if people know this or not, but the African American Mayors Association passed a resolution in support of Israel. Brother Charles Barron has been a community activist for over 50 years. In 1969, in need of a vehicle to express his desire for justice, Barron joined the Harlem branch of the Black Panther Party. After his Black Panther experience, he attended New York City University, now known as New York Technical College, where he obtained an associate's degree. He then attended Hunter College, where he acquired his Bachelor's of Arts degree in sociology with a minor in education. In 2001, he was elected to the New York City Council. He served as the chair of the Committee on Higher Education for over 8 years and was a member of the Committee on Education, Consumer Affairs, Immigration, Land Use, Planning Dispositions and Concessions, and Women's Issues. As a council member, Charles Barron secured funding to renovate 3 parks totaling over $15 million. He secured allocations for 2 new $80 million schools, was the #1 council member in Brooklyn in securing real affordable housing. He secured millions of dollars for funding of the Black Male Initiative for the City University of New York, and millions of dollars for a workforce development that generated over 6,000 jobs in neighborhoods of high unemployment in New York City. He had become known as the conscience of the city council. And he is now a founding member of the East New York-based organization, Operation Power, which stands for People Organizing and Working for Empowerment and Respect. Brother Charles Barron, uhuru.
Thank you, comrades, and uhuru, and congratulations to the Black is Back Coalition for 15 years of marching on the White House yesterday. I understand was a tremendous success, and we must keep the pressure on. Also, I want to congratulate the chairman, Omali Yeshitela, and all the members of the Uhuru movement and the Democratic Uhuru movement, and all those involved in the African People's Socialist Party. This is a critical time in our movement, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Chairman mentioned something that stuck with me for a while, and that is power is the great equalizer. And we can't just talk about power. We got to really obtain it, get the power. Power is the ability to act. Power is the ability to make decisions in your best interest, and not try to influence people in power to make decisions in your interest. That's when you're powerless and you have to influence people. So we're very excited about the future, particularly in light of the fact that revolution has come to Africa, all over the world, particularly on the continent of Africa. They're talking about France out of Africa, America out of Africa. They don't want nobody in Africa ripping off the resources of Africa. Can you imagine how powerful Africa would be if the resources of the richest continent in the world was used for the people in there? The paradox of Africa is that it is the richest in the world continent and yet has the poorest people. So we want everybody out of Africa. We want America, the United Nations, China, Russia, Africa for the Africans. And if you are going to deal with Africans, then it's on an equal power basis, and it should be beneficial for the Africans first and foremost, and then others afterwards. That's on that. On the Palestinian question, we're doing a program coming up on the 11th of Saturday of November. That's the Operation Power, and it's called The Bombing of Move and Palestine. Same struggle, same fight. We shouldn't forget that in 1985, when they dropped an incendiary bomb on the Move headquarters, a revolutionary organization fighting against the system killed 11 people, and 5 of them were children. And they lit up a whole block in the middle-class community. 61 homes, 250 people were left homeless, and was done by a Black mayor, Wilson Good. We call him Wilson No Good. So these things have parallels. The same people that did that to the Move are the same people that are supporting Israel doing that to the Palestinians. But I want to bring it home and say the Black is Back Coalition, one of the most powerful things we have right now is our electoral, our Black radical electoral school. And we want to say to you that in our 21 years, Operation Power, in the electoral arena as revolutionaries, I want to read something real quick that the chairman had written. And I got a quote for him from one of the articles in my book, How to Beat the Machine. The chairman says, "The electoral process is an arm of the state for the purpose of maintaining control and dominance of African people. The electoral system, when it was created here, was not created for our participation. We used the system that they created for themselves to expose their contradictions and to mobilize our people. What we are doing is creating a crisis by intervening." And then I have a quote under that saying, "We must organize and mobilize our people to beat the Democratic Party machine that controls all the local political seats of power through its Black elected neo-colonial puppet politicians in our beloved Black communities. We must not concede any arena of struggle for power to our oppressor. It's time for liberation politics, no more plantation politics." So I want to report to you that we have had some great success. 21 years, we beat the machine in my beloved East New York section of Brooklyn. 21 years. They got the seats back in the last 2 years, but we're not finished, because now this will be my last month in the 2 months in the electoral arena in New York. But I was always a free Black man. I'm gonna be a freer Black man. I'm gonna be such a thorn in their side. They're gonna campaign to put me back in the city council, so I won't have that much freedom to do the things that we're gonna do. But during that process, we were able to get the release of 3 political prisoners by getting the state assembly to sign a letter to the parole board for Herman Bell, released, Seth Hayes, released. Shortly after that, he made his transition. And then Jalil Montague was released recently. We also got some Congress people in New York to support the release of Mutulu Shakur. We were able to get a reparations bill passed in the state assembly and of 150 people, and in the Senate, 63 people. When I left, they changed it. It's still, the architect of the bill is Operation Power. We did it. But instead of the community picking the commissioners, they want the state legislature to pick the commissioners. But it's our bill still, and we're going to fight them on that. But it was passed in both the 150-member New York Assembly and the 63-member state Senate. It was passed. It is on Governor Hochul's desk. Operation Power, along with the December 12th movement, just had a demonstration saying, "Sign the bill."
Time?
Excuse me?
No, I'm sorry, time?
Okay, so I'll end with this. We have more affordable housing. We stopped gentrification and all the stuff that was mentioned in the intro. We got a Cuba resolution passed through the New York City Council to end the blockade and get them off the terrorist list. So we say forward ever, backward never. We will win.
Uhuru. And thank you so much. And I also just have to say, one of the most difficult jobs for me is being the timekeeper, because people are saying so many powerful things, and I hate to say time, but so be it. This is revolutionary discipline that we must engage in. Our next presenter, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. She is a strong revolutionary activist, and I just feel so great working with her and knowing that she is a part of our coalition. She is Minister Belinda Parker Brown. She's an educator, researcher, a life specialist, community organizer, and motivational speaker who has spent the majority of her career enhancing the potential of others. Diverse audiences have benefited greatly and responded enthusiastically to Mrs. Parker Brown's wealth of experiences. She is the president/chief executive officer of Louisiana United Incorporated. The LUI is a bipartisan social justice organization with whose mission is to champion the protection of human rights, including the civil, constitutional, and societal rights that are all too commonly trampled on in today's world. The LUI speaks for the person or group that cannot speak for themselves and has a proven track record all across the state of Louisiana. Mrs. Parker Brown co-hosts a talk show called A Force for Justice and is a nationally recognized advocate. Uhuru, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Sister Lisa. I'm telling you, I am so enjoying this panelist here today. I'm so excited. You know, this is our time. I just want to appreciate, you know, everyone that have came, you know, before me. I'm just listening to the powerful, you know, revolution that's taking place for such a time as this. You know, I want to appreciate, our last speaker, none other than Charles Barron. I'm telling you, that brother just get me so excited about all the things that's being accomplished. And then Brother Cam Howard, I'm telling you, you just get me on the edge of my seat. You know, when we talk about, you know, what we're, you know, action, what we're doing right now to literally change the world. But most importantly, I want to say this, you know, every time the chairman speaks, you know, it just sets off a firebomb inside of me. You know, my blood get to boiling, and I'm saying, you know, without a doubt, this is our time. So, you know, I only got 5 minutes, and I want, you know, everyone, you know, let me tell you why not one step back. And the FBI attack on the Black people's liberation. You know, listen, people, you got to hear what I'm about to say, okay? Because, you know, it's very important to hear. It's a difference between hearing and listening. You know, when you hear, you know, it's time for you to get up and move and do something. You know, my grandmother said you used to listen and let it go in one ear and out the other. You know, but I'm here to tell you, you got to hear, because the word right now for the young people, if you're out there and you listening, is woke, okay? And for the old people, it's wake up. You know, you cannot no longer stand on the sidelines with your arms crossed, leaning up against the wall, waiting on your time. You know, it's time. The time is now, people. The time is now. And I'm here to tell you why. Because, you know, when we really think about the importance of hearing what's happening right now, I'm not good at lecturing or all of this, history and, all of this stuff. But one thing for sure, when you hear the chairman speak, you need to be paying attention. Okay, because it's every time he speak, I mean, it's like shining the light on darkness without a doubt that we better wake up and figure out what this is all about. Okay, because, I just want to say one thing for sure. It will never be forgotten about what the United States have done to Black people here in America. Okay. You know, the white colonizers, listen, people, I'm going to make it real simple. The white colonizers enslaved Black people to enrich themselves with white power, money, and land. Okay. You don't need a rocket science to figure that out. Okay. They built this country on the backs of Black people to enrich themselves with white power, money, and land. Okay. Now, you know, this is why the white colonizers specialize. You hear me? They specialize in crushing freedom-loving people, especially when it comes to organizations that are fighting for social justice, peace, and reparations. Now, if you out there and you all by yourself and you fighting, you a freedom-loving person and you fighting for people, I don't care if you Black, white, Republican, Democrat, it don't make no difference. It's time for you to get involved with the Black is Back coalition. You can't do this by yourself, okay? Because this is real. It's happening right now. It's happening right now, people, because they have attacked the chairman because he is a freedom-loving people. He's been doing this work for 50 years. The message have still been the same. Peace, reparation, and liberation for Black people in the United States of America to have their own self-sustainability. You know, leave us alone and just leave us alone and let us take care ourselves. So I'm saying we're not going to tolerate it and we're not going to beg you and ask permission. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. And I'm talking to the FBI because we know what y'all did in the past. We know, we done figured it out. When you assassinated all of our great leaders that stood for any type of reparations, peace, and liberation for Black people and self-sustainability. You know, give us what's rightfully belong to us because we're not asking you permission. You know, this is our time, and I appreciate that this is the opportune time for us as Black people in the United States of America to unite and join up with the Black is Back coalition because we're going to take what's rightfully ours. You heard me. I said, we ain't going to wait till they give it to us. We're going to take it. We've been fighting long enough. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Drop the charges now. Drop the charges now. Black, 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 Black. I know y'all can't stand to hear us say Black, but we say Black is back, and that's the way it is. Thank you, Sister Lisa.
Blackly Black, Black, and drop the charges. Uhuru. Yes. Our next presenter is Brother Ajamu Baraka. Has he entered the Zoom room?
Uhuru, I'm not seeing him on, so we can go to the next.
Okay, and I just want to say that Brother Jamu had every intention of participating with us this weekend, but something came up. I want to just emphasize, however, that the Black Alliance for Peace had a strong presence. They were so strong yesterday, and we appreciate their support. Our next presenter is Brother Yusef Dosset. And Brother Yusef, just hold on one second, please. Oh, I have him right here. Brother Yusef Dosset, he is a member of the Joko Collective, and he was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and has been a lifelong Californian, spending his late teens and 20s in the San Francisco Bay Area, attending college at St. Mary's College of California in Morago, California, and then transferring to San Francisco State University, where he earned. Yes.
You don't have to read all that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Read all that. I'm an educator in the LA area and a cultural worker. That's enough.
Uhuru, dear brother.
Thank you. And, you know, it is an honor to always, right, to be with the Black is Back coalition. And I should also add, I'm a member of the Joko Collective. I just have a few comments to make on the theme of this conference, not one step back. And it's apparent to me that there is no going back, right? It's impossible to go back because the way people are thinking about this country, this world system, will not allow things to go back. People are not buying the goods anymore. That's apparent with the political crisis in this country. Both of the major political parties are in crisis. The Republican Party is trying hard to, how should I say, mute their fascist, their openly fascist wing to maintain a certain politeness in their politics. And the Democratic Party leadership is quaking because polls continue to show that they are losing their grip on their most loyal constituency, Black people. And there's a generational shift, right? Their polls are showing that younger Black folks are unimpressed with the Democratic Party, are tired of waiting for the Democratic Party to follow through on even its most vanilla reform proposals, and has been unable to do that. Some are deciding, well, maybe they should go to the Republican Party, but I think most folks are just choosing to not openly support the party, to be more independent, or just turn their back on electoral politics altogether. And of course, that's an ongoing thing in the United States. Most people don't vote anyway, because most people realize that these political parties do not represent their interest, really. So there is no going back, right? The consciousness has changed. We see that consciousness changing as Brother Ralph pointed out, on the African continent, right? As the people, right? The grassroots, the workers, the peasants are demanding that the imperialists leave, that France get out, and AFRICOM needs to follow them. It is the people in Latin America that are rejecting the old style neocolonial politics, are using the electoral process in Latin America to elect at least progressive leadership, socialist leadership, leadership that has some history in revolutionary struggle. Nicaragua, Colombia, countries that are refusing to turn their backs on Cuba. Consciousness is changing here in the United States. And probably one of the biggest indicators of that is, despite all of their efforts, despite the trotting out of highly visible Black celebrities, despite the silence of both the silence and the complicity, the active complicity of the Black Congressional Congress, or Black caucus, right, in Congress, the righteousness of the Palestinian struggle has been affirmed by people in the streets. The efforts to support Zionism and to support Israel are falling flat. And so they're working overtime to try to get a hold of the narrative, but they can't get a hold of the narrative because people are beginning to see, and they have been seeing for a while now, that the system is not working for most people.
1 minute.
Pandemic revealed that the system is not working for most people. Consciousness cannot go backwards, right? Once you have seen something, you cannot unsee it. You might try to repress the memory of it, but it's still there. And what is repressed always returns. What is pressed to the ground will rise again. And so we see that happening. There is no going back. So they might as well drop the charges, because that's a case I really believe they cannot win. Consciousness has changed, and it's the role of folks involved in struggle to help inform that consciousness, offer a program and a plan moving forward for the new world we are creating. One with a free Palestine, one with a free, unified Africa, and Africa is wherever Africans are. Forward to freedom. Uhuru.
Uhuru. And thank you so much, Brother Yusuf. Our next presenter is Brother Tafari Mugari, and Brother Tafari is a young school teacher organizing in the impoverished township.
Sister Lisa, I'm not seeing him on. I sent a message, so we will go to SG Luezi.
Okay, well, our next presenter is, as Sister Likia said, our comrade revolutionary brother, SG Luezi, and she is, I'm sorry, everybody. I have all my bios right here in my notes, so just bear with me 1 second. Brother Luezi Kinshasa is the Secretary General of the African Socialist International and Director of International Affairs. Luezi was born in Congo and currently lives in exile in London, where he presides over the African People's Socialist Party organizations on the ground in Africa and throughout Europe. SG Luezi's regular column in the Burning Spear newspaper analyzes current events and developments on the continent of Africa from an African internationalist perspective. He publishes a bilingual version of the Spear in French and English for distribution in Africa and Europe. Fluent in 4 languages, Luezi has traveled, written, and spoken extensively throughout the world and is well-known and respected in London, especially among the large Congolese activist community there. Brother S.G. Luezi, Uhuru.
Uhuru, como Sister Linda Davis. Thank you for having me. This program is really an honor. And I will also like to salute Chairman Omali Stella and all the leaders of the Black Coalition, because this is really truly a historical time. And what is happening now is something Chairman has been talking about for a long time. So I'm just feel privileged just to be at this moment part of the struggle. Here, where we are in Europe, you heard the Chairman mentioning some of it. We are watching before our eyes the consequences of the struggle of the colonized people. Basically, what we're looking at in Palestine, we're looking at a struggle against colonialism as a mode of production. Because any issue to do with settler colonialism, the issue of the land is really the struggle against colonialism as a mode of production. You cannot have the US, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Palestine, struggles without putting into question whose land is it. And you cannot have the United States without the theft of the land of the indigenous people. So this is really, we're looking at the struggle against colonial mode of production. And it confirms basically that the anti-colonial struggle basically is the driving force in history. It's not the struggle against, the struggle for the trade union, the leftists I see in Europe here, or the struggle against racism and things like that, but it's the poor people's struggle right there in Palestine that has brought everyone to take a stand. Nobody's neutral. Everywhere you look, I've been two demonstrations, at least here in London, of the against the slaughter that taking place in Palestine. And you can see, I haven't seen any demonstration like this one before. A lot of young people, a lot of women, in fact, the majority are young women. Someone say 60 to 65%. And everyone was saying for a long time, we are the young people are in the struggles here. Go to Palestine demonstration, you will see those young people over there. And we also just want to recognize the success of Black is Back Coalition for Reparations and Social Justice. That's 15 years. I want to salute again, Chairman, and all the leading committee of the Black is Back. You've done a magnificent job just to be there for 15 years, and you were correct. Now we can see our eyes growing, which means we are winning. So we are on the right path. The long term is really what counts, and we are on that trajectory, and nothing's going to stop us. And I want to just add a few things regarding what we're going through. We had a demonstration ourselves yesterday. It was a good demonstration in quality. It was a dynamic, but what we learned there is that the anti-colonial struggle basically is where everybody has to be united around if you're going to be part of the future. And you heard the three-continental struggle allies. Chairman was talking about even today. He didn't mention that where you have all the revolutionists from around the world meeting in Cuba. When I look at that demonstration, it reminds me of that, because I kept telling the people this demonstration, is happening on the day the Black is Back is organizing in 15th March, the White House. But we also have the same events happening in South Africa, in Pretoria. We also some events happening in Liberia. It's also happening in Sierra Leone. And we had a brother from West Papua, Guinea. We was in a struggle. So we're talking of a struggle for African people happening in Europe, happening in America, happening in Africa, but happening also in the Pacific Island, like West Papua Guinea. And it was broadcasted, the brother was broadcasting to the people in the boat, to West Papua to watch. So it's like, Africans from around the world fighting at the same time for the struggle to eradicate colonialism as a mode of production. So that's, to me, it was powerful. And we had the benefit of comrades traveling from Germany to be in London. And that was very, very powerful for the Africans who were in London, to be with Africans coming to Germany, Africans coming to West Papua, and also knowing that Africans are fighting in the United States, in Europe, West Africa, and South Africa. That was powerful. And yes, well, yeah, and that's some of the things. I don't know how much time I have. I just want to say a couple of things quickly, then I'll be done. And one thing also is happening. This the whole question of free speech. There is no day in London. You wake up in the morning, you listen to the news. Even before you go to bed, there is a new measure to basically to make it difficult, to intimidate people from joining demonstration. So they're having all these new measures. Every day they're announcing something new. You can wave Palestinian flag. Just imagine, you cannot wave Palestinian flag, but it couldn't work out because people didn't even respect that. People say that you can't do that, but that's something the chief of police, the Home Office minister raised. And so the same minister of police also banned the demonstration of yesterday. They allowed one. There's supposed to be two demonstrations. And they're debating already why they shouldn't allow the next demonstration against the slaughter of Palestinian people on the 11th of November, because this is the Armistice Day. Therefore, to allow demonstration, it will be counterproductive. They're coming for all these kind of arguments. And so today we are the 5th. So we don't know if they're going to ban it or not, but demonstrations are everywhere in Europe, everywhere in small cities, big cities. Even when they are banned, people see protests, there are arrests taking place. Like in France, it's banned. People are demonstrating anyway. In Germany, it's banned. In Belgium, it's banned. So the unity of the colonizers is clear, and that's a new some things has exposed itself to the people of the world, particularly young generations, to see such unity amongst the colonizers, with different details as the colonized have to be united too. And we are the majority. We are, the majority basically. So, we can't be defeated. This has to go forward. So I don't know how I'm doing for time, but I just want to say it's really a great privilege to be here. And we want to say hands off, whole hands of Africa, drop the charge. In fact, that was one of the most dominant chants of yesterday. Hands off Chairman O'Malley, drop the charge now. Hands off Beniers, drop the charge now. Hands off Jesse Neville, drop the charge now. And we have another slogan that was popular yesterday. Is brick by brick, wall by wall, the colonial system must go. So. Yeah, that's some of the things I just want to say. There's a lot of things to say, but I don't know how I'm doing it for time. It's time for me to stop talking.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I thought you heard when I said time, but yes.
Okay. So I appreciate just being here. We are winning. Let's move forward to United Africa and the United Palestine world.
Uhuru. Yes, we are organizing all over the world, and the colonizers better get our message fast. And next up, we will have our Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who will be concluding this segment of the panel discussion. And then afterwards, we will be having Q&A for approximately 15 minutes. And I will double check everything with Sister in Ikenge, who's on the ground in DC, organizing this event. And we thank her so much for all that she has done. Brother Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Uhuru.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that some of the people who were supposed to be here were unable to come on. President General Zaki Baruti out of St. Louis is in transit now. He's traveling and could not be here. And because he contributes to this discussion from an angle around African participation in the electoral process in this country. He's been doing that for a number of years, and you've heard from Charles Barron already. You've heard from Comrade Cam Howard. You see how the coalition has brought various Africans together, tackling contradictions and problems existing for African people, and giving a greater coherence to what our struggle is about. You heard Comrade President Masamela Odom, who talked to us about the whole Black community control of the police issue. I can't think of anything more democratic than that. They say they can't figure out why these cops are killing Black people all the time, and every instance there has to be some kind of investigation to see what happened here. The guy's only done it 7 times, So you have this kind of thing going on. So we can solve the problem. Black community control of the police. That's pretty simple. That's a very democratic demand. But you can't find democracy here. That's one of the contradictions we're dealing with. That's what this coalition is about. I just wanted to make this comment about Israel and the whole question of reparations, because Israel for a while now has been perceived sometimes in the African community as a kind of template for the reparations issue, the reparations question. And I want to say that Israel was not acquiring reparations because of related love for Jews by Germany or by any of the other colonial powers. Israel got what they call reparations as a means by which the colonial powers can fund this entity that's doing what it's doing in Gaza right now. So they need a legitimate way to fund it, to shoot money and resources into it, and reparations became an instrument through which they did that. So it met their own interests to do that. And what we're looking for is a question of reparation that meets our interests. That's what Comrade Cam Howard was just talking about. Figuring that out, meet our interests, and hopefully we see various instances where we coming together with strategic approaches to this question, certainly tactical questions. And the work that Comrade Charles Barron has done in New York, I think, is an outstanding example of that. Other people are dealing with it. I want to say when we first came out from the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, talking about reparations, we were doing reparations work in 1976, and we were considered a lunatic fringe. I'm talking about by the white left, characterized as a lunatic fringe to be talking about reparations. And now everybody has to talk about reparations, like they have to talk about Palestine, right? And so I wanted to mention that. And I also want to say that African people have been living in refugee camps now for a few hundred years. They call it North St. Louis. They call it South Chicago. They give it all that we've been, and I think it's really important because people forget why we struggle. It was not a voluntary relationship that we have ever had with this government. We were just trying to be free. And people died in pursuing this freedom. And so a minimum of 100 million African people were killed during this whole process of slavery. I know you hear every time 12 million, but Walter Rodney, who is a historian that I have a lot more confidence in than I do the ones who are talking at 12 million talk, expressed the view that at least 100 million, and I had read even higher numbers of Black people. I mean, you're talking about Africa at one time being almost encircled by ships who had turned Africa, as Karl Marx once said, into a warren for the commercial hunting of Black skins. And so just like other animals that people hunt, Africans were hunted in that fashion. On the continent of Africa, another notorious place, of course, is Australia. I mean, actually, it was a sport to go out and kill the people there. And when you look at, they use like the Second Imperialist World War as the basis for giving this, what they call reparations, to Israelis or to Jews because of 6 million Jews who were killed. But in World War II, 27 million Russians were killed. 27 million Russians were killed. It was the Russians who broke the back of the of the Nazi entity. And so it's this thing that they will elevate the significance of white people in such a fashion that they talk about these Europeans who died in Europe. And then you have other people who are, Africans. We remind people there was no such word as genocide until 1948, when it was used to define what white people did to white people. And the entire Holocaust question has been utilized by all the Zionists. By what I say Zionists, I'm not just talking about Jews. I'm talking about Biden, I'm talking about Trump, I'm talking about all those forces, and how all the Zionists use this Holocaust question to smother, obscure the origin of the whole system and the murder of what they call Indians who are living in concentration camps, their own Gazas right now, that's called Indian reservations. We're talking about all these other people who just murdered, but you can't talk about that, because the real issue of genocide was what white people did to white people. So that's the ultimate crime that's been created in humanity. That's the ultimate crime that has been created. So when you start talking about what happened to the indigenous people here, it's interesting. I mean, you don't see them walking down the streets in Washington, D.C., or in Chicago, or New Jersey, or most of the places that we live in. Nobody even raises the question. Generally speaking, they don't get talked about unless they're in the room in some very obvious way. That's That's what we're looking at. So you negate the significance of indigenous people. But this is a settler colony, and we're not going to let anybody escape from that recognition, that reality. It's a settler colony. It's the greatest, most significant settler colony that's ever existed on Earth. You know what colonialism is, when foreigners and aliens come and take your land, your resources, your lives and livelihood. But now you have a situation coming with the creation of this entity we call America, call it Canada, call it New Zealand, we call it Australia, and at one time, Rhodesia, South Africa, Kenya at one time. You have these settler colonies where Europeans leave, the colonizers leave Europe and go to this place to stay. They're not just ripping off resources, etc. This whole thing that they call the Great War of Independence that happened in this country, and that's what they call it, the Independence War, was a contest that happened between different sectors, different white forces about who was going to get this land, whether it was going to be England or the settlers who came here and built their own empire here. And so this war that they called for independence wasn't independence for the indigenous people. Nobody else got any. Yeah, that definitely wasn't for us. Nobody else got any of this independence that this whole thing was about, right? So the settler colony, and this is necessary. You cannot have a successful settler colony without committing the worst kind of genocidal violence against the traditional custodians of the land. You have to kill them off. You have to make them disappear. And that's what settler colonialism does every place. People sometimes wonder why in the US there's so much gun violence. In fact, the British used to poke fun at the United States because the British cops used to not carry guns, you know? But the reason their gun violence and the gun has been so prominent here is because all the settlers had to be armed to keep the land from the indigenous people. All the settlers had to be armed. All the settlers had to be armed and function as slave catchers and things like this. This is where it comes from. So we see in South Africa, we used to see in Rhodesia, you see all the people getting taught how to shoot. There was no such thing as a civilian settler in Rhodesia. I'm not sure there's a civilian settler in what they call occupied Israel. Everybody learns to gun, they have to shoot, they have to spend a certain amount of time in the military and what have you, and they kill Palestinians. Yes, there's the so-called settlers went and took, another land mass from the Palestinian people at gunpoint. Yeah. These are civilians, just roll in. And I also think that I want to appreciate the comments made by Comrade Cam Howard. And we need to talk about how, we promote and support that. We need to see more of that. I'm going to be encouraging people to even get yard signs, like you do for elections, and posters like you do for elections. It's an election city coming up right now. We have to say, reparations and no vote to the Democratic Party or something. This stuff needs to go up everywhere. It shouldn't be a place that they run to that they don't see this. Here's the issue. African people get trapped because there's not an assumption of an alternative. The Democratic Party has become the entity where the alternative to our circumstances allegedly comes from. But Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, they're not going to going into that election in 2024, reparations is not going to be a part of their platform. Black community control is not going to be a part of that platform. Dropping the charges on the Uhuru 3 is not going to be a part of that platform. We have developed a platform. I said we. I'm talking about the coalition and the work that we do. I'm talking about we can begin to say there is an alternative. You don't have to think that you just got to flounder out there. More and more young Africans are saying that our alternative is, like Malcolm X used to say, when somebody's got a stranglehold on you and you try to cut the arm off, you don't ask, what are you going to replace it with, right? And this is the question in terms of us having alternatives. Our alternatives. We want the reparations now, Joe. They say, wake up, Joe.
Wake up, Joe, reparations.
I'm not going to say, let's go, Brandon. We want to see that. You just can't keep begging people to stop killing you like that. You have to begin to take control of our own lives. This is a democratic issue. I'm not saying anybody should go and get guns and raid the local police departments, even though there's no such thing as a local police department. There's no such thing as a local police department. And that's why they have what they call surplus weapons that they all over this country, they pump them into the police departments right here. They call it surplus from the Pentagon. What they've done is pad the Pentagon budget, and so that includes using weapons in our community. They got bazookas, they got armored vehicles. The Pentagon is you paying for that through the Pentagon, and so there's no such thing as a local police. It violates even the law. The so-called posse comitatus, where you're not supposed to have the military active inside this country. So say, okay, the military just trains the police, if not directly through the state of Israel, and we would give them all the weapons that they use to contain the African community. Remember, somebody mentioned 1985, how a bomb was dropped in Philadelphia on the move. Does anybody remember that the guy got the helicopter from the military? And this was C4 explosive that was used. It's not like you just keep that, in the basement to kill roaches, right? And so this is what they use. And I can't, so anyway, I just wanted to say that. And that we have to have our own electoral strategy. We can leave here and determined to do that. And I'm, we'll hear more what Comrade Cam and his organization has to say. I want to say I have very little patience around this reparations question. I read someplace the other day that the average wealth of Africans in this country is something like $44,000. And for white people, it's something like $228,000, somewhere in that range. This is the average. And in Boston, the average was a couple of years ago, was $8. There's some place, whether you can believe it or not, there's a negative amount of value that Black people have in this country. Right. And I've seen that them say that it would take 228 years for the African family to catch up with the average white family in terms of economics in this country. 228 years. That's what they offer us. And we have to do a lot of education like what we're going to do. We're going to also, before this is over, and I really hope people are here to participate in the teaching that we're going to be doing around the whole Palestine-Israel question. It has to be demystified. And we have to have people achieve enough defiance that they won't let the threat of being an anti-Semitic or characterized as that keep us from taking the covers off this nasty, nasty, nasty entity that they've dropped there on the Middle East that's butchering people right now in public view. So we want them to drop these damn charges. We have to continue to build this movement and win masses of people. And in the many ways, the Palestinian question is even opened this door up for much larger. We've spent 50 years trying to make people deal with the reparation, with the question of colonialism. Now it's something that cannot be avoided any longer. And so this is going to be incredibly significant. And it is by virtue of what is happening in practically, it is a negation of this whole notion that the Russians will have to tell us to do something. That we are colonized people. And that's the thing that we have to win in terms of the consciousness of every damn body in the world. Everybody who recognizes us any place on earth needs to recognize that inside the United States, there's a domestic colony that exists within a colonial settler state, right? So let's push it forward. Comrade Ikenga is not only holding her fists up, she's taking a karate stance. So I'm going to get out of your way and turn it back over to who is that? Comrade Elikia? Uhuru.
Uhuru. And next, we have the Q&A section of our discussion. Sister Ikenga, will that still be 15 minutes? Because I know we're going to be also calling for membership and resources and then a lunch break. So
Uhuru, we will have to do it in 10.
Okay, Uhuru. So I see that we have some questions listed in the Q&A section. So let me just start with, I'll read a couple of them and then the panelists can respond. We have Brother Mandisi, who's out of the Boston area, and he just wants to remind everybody that he joined the BIB Coalition as an individual and that he wants to work with the Reparations Working Group. So we're going to make sure definitely that the Reparations Working Group has his information. And he also says, and he's asking this question for any of the panel, he says that the African struggle has been ongoing for over 600 years. The Palestinian struggle has been ongoing for 70 plus years. One thing that is similar is the colonizer's strategy for the past 70 years and the fact that as more time elapses, the reality of the struggle gets diluted. Africans are really out here talking about how we are free, that we have freedom. Time is not on our side. How do we take Black power now? And also, I'll just read this other comment from an anonymous attendee. This person says that there's a website that called ifafricansknew.org, and it explains in detail, it gives a detailed analysis of the war on the Palestinians, and the COINTEL Papers book by Ward Churchill explains COINTEL pro-history on us. Would anybody like to respond to the comments? Any of the panel members?
Yes, Sister.
That first one.
This is Sister Lisa. Yeah, I would like to respond to the one question.
Brown, I think that's right here.
Yeah, this is right in Louisiana. You know, one of the things that I wanted to bring out is that exposing the injustice in the corrupt criminal justice system. He's talking about how African people, how we've been, Malcolm X said it best when he talked about how we have been hoodwinked and how we have, basically been tricked and trapped to believe a lie that we are free. I'm a God-fearing person. And one of the things that I know that is the enemy's job, because if it was not his job, he set out to deceive the people, to make them think by putting pressure on people to cooperate with an evil, corrupt, wicked system. And when I think about that, is that right now what we're going through with all of this, we got to vote in fear. If we don't vote for Biden, we're going to get Trump. And it's just a lot of fear that we have been kind of like just pressured into believing that, our only way out is to, operate in fear. But, that is the deception. And I just want to point that out to people that, we all have been deceived. That's why it's just time for us to know the truth, because the truth is really, through education and being a part of a revolutionary meeting is such as what we're having today. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to speak briefly to this question of how the Palestinian resistance seems to be so strong on the one hand, and what the caller says is the absence of such resistance and the willingness of African people in this country to accept the definition that's been imposed on us by our colonizer. And it is true, by the way, that the longer you can hold somebody into captivity, the more inclined they are to adapt to the situation that you put them in. Even in the US military, they teach you that if you're ever captured, then what you have to do is try to escape right away. Because the longer you're held in captivity, you get accustomed to the routine of being in captivity. And you begin to act like that, and that's one of the reasons that made Haiti so volatile, because there were so many Africans coming through Haiti all the time. There was a new group always coming in who had a recent memory of being free. The Palestinians have living memories of being free. That's one aspect. But the other thing I want to say is this, that the desire of African people to be free as Black people has not waned. What has happened is the murder of African people who've been providing the leadership for that question, and the replacement of those Africans with toadies, with people who work for the government, but the Kamala Harrises and the Obamas and your local, so-called elected official. You got everything from the African Methodist Episcopal Church to the Republic of New Africa to the Universal African Peoples Organization to the African People's Socialist Party. My point is that these are not large organizations, but what you find here is the memory of freedom by African people as Africans. You see, it's distributed in so many places. You got the red, black, and green flag was something that was created more than 100 years ago. And what you find is that red, black, and green in every African community, certainly in the United States, has meaning to Black people. Black people voted for that flag. That's where it came from. And precisely because we said everybody has a flag. Every nation has a flag, except the Black man. And then, so Garvey and the UNIA, took that on, and we have our own flags, and universal kind of flag. I just wanted to say that. I've heard, the resistance of Black people. That's why it's necessary to keep police in our communities all the time and keep us unarmed. And they're talking about they want gun control in the United States. There is gun control in the United States. As a Black person, walk down the streets in Philadelphia and see how many times you get stopped by the cops. In New York City, there've been millions of Black people stopped and searched. That's the gun control that we're looking at here in our communities. Of course, I'm not suggesting that people should go out and promote gun distribution. It's not because I'm a pacifist or anything like that, but until we do some political education and organization, that's a dangerous proposition, because, we've got a population that's, under the leadership of our enemies in terms of where their political consciousness is. I've spoken too long, I apologize. But yeah, I just wanted to say that to a comrade who raised the issue of the consciousness of Black people and things like that. It's a whole revolution is a strategic approach, and it's a process. It's not an event, you know. Uhuru.
Uhuru, time check, Sister Likia, we have time.
We have Charles Barron with the raised hand, so I want to take him, and then we would be looking to closing.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, comrades, I just would like to add to that, you know, African people in America are in a unique situation. You know, when you look at the Palestinian people, they're very clear that that's their land. When you look at the struggle and revolutionary struggle on the continent of Africa, that's our land. People are very, very clear about that, and even in the Caribbean. But the Africans in America were brought from Africa here. And in spite of the fact that this is the indigenous people's land, in spite of the fact that we are in a nation of 323 million people, and we are at best 50 million, in spite of the fact that the Europeans here don't see Europe as their home, as the case in Africa and other places where the Europeans colonized Africa, and when the African community rose up, they were able to run back to Europe and set up neo-colonial Black puppet governments. But in spite of all of that, if you look at the history of resistance from the plantations and look at African people in America in the 1890s, went to battle in Ethiopia during the Adwa uprising, the Battle of Adwa, went and fought there, and movements all over the world get their example from us, those of us right here in America. So as the chairman said, it's a process. And I think we're moving ahead in the process and raising a lot of consciousness with programs like this in the march yesterday.
Uhuru, thank you, Brother Charles Barron, Sister Belinda Parker Brown.
Yeah, I just want us to, anyone out there that can respond to Stephen Harris' questions in regards to, you know, how do we educate, you know, our children opposed to the colonized educational system, you know, and again, I just, you know, it's just time for us to really seriously start thinking about, you know, the power of educating and the knowledge of this information to shift the mindsets of people that have woke up to this. Thank you.
Uhuru, Sister Betty, I see your hand raised. Is that in response to Sister Belinda's question? Or
I think she said it was in response to Mr. Harris.
yes, yes, but
Yes.
is your hand raised in response to that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, yes.
Okay,
Spotlighting you
Lisa,
right
what
now.
I have 1 minute?
Yes, Uhuru, it's on you right
Okay,
now.
thank you. All right.
Yes.
Listen, I'm so happy that he asked that question because as one of our comrades said, young people are saying a pax on both your houses. When people talk about being a Democrat, the history of the Democratic Party is Ku Klux Klan. We know that. The history of the Republican Party is the ruling rich elites. So we ain't got a dog in this fight. But to be strategic right now, I have to agree with Brother Camp, is to sit on your hands until they put the demands in a form that you know they can't take it back. And I don't want to do whatever that pastor in the South did when he supported the nomination of Biden and say, we know Biden's heart. I know Biden's heart too. I know the legislation of the prisons charges that he passed, I think it was in 1984, that caused our children to be incarcerated. So the answer is what the Africans who got their freedom fighting during this, what they call the Civil War, did. They instituted a public school system that the people control. That's why they could not shut it down during COVID, because most of the communities, they could not force them to go back to school during COVID because most of the school systems in America are public. The majority of the charter schools are in the African communities. That should tell you something right there. And I'm not attacking the cultural charter schools. I'm all for them. We can have both because we've got enough money from the public education budget in every single state to do that. You control your public schools during the day and you extend them with the charter school system afterwards. The public school system is where you control the curriculum. That is why the parents who are fascist in this country are going full steam ahead to take history out of the curriculum, to take science out of the curriculum. They need a dummied down slave population. And I appreciate so much that the chairman said, the longer you're in captivity, the longer you will remain there. It's the history of the frog in the pot. If you throw them in when the water's boiling, the frog knows, bam, I'm in trouble here. Throw them in and heat it up, throw them in cold water and heat it up, they'll stay till their eyes pop out. And that's what we are in. And the public school system is the answer. The parents are ready to take charge. They need people like you, everybody on this call, to volunteer, go into your schools and run for something. Volunteer for something and take your schools back.
Right.
And that is a struggle that you can win. Thank you.
Uhuru, Sister King, I know you're about to call for time, but we have one question on YouTube I think Charles Barron can answer.
All right. We
we
have one question in the room, and we're gonna. I appreciate all the energy that everyone has. But we want to try and keep. We've got other speakers. I want to take one question. I know you guys can't see us online, but Brother Yahweh, can you please?
Uhuru, before that person, please let me just get this.
Yes.
Someone just wants to know how to get updated info on the Operation Power Conference. They said they called and never, they just want to get info on the Operation Power Conference. That's an online question for Charles Barron, then we can move to the person in the room and move the agenda.
Thank you. Brother Yahweh.
Well, in addition to the question asked by Steve Harris, I'm reminded of our attempt by the Boatman the idea of a Marcus Garvey Academy at the rural housing. So I'd just like to confer upon the leadership of the organization, the PIPC and the chairman, being that my colonial name is Marcus, professorship in the Marcus Garvey Academy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please continue to put your questions and comments in the chat, and we're going to do our best to respond to everyone today. But where are we at now, Likia? What time is it?
It's time to raise some money.
All right, that's
my
it.
video.
Everyone to be able to participate in this process. So I'm going to start by telling you, first of all, that inside of each of your packets, you have a donor card. So while we're talking here, I want you to go ahead and look at the levels that you have to donate at. I want you to fill this out. I want to ask this, Sister Fofi and Sister Lauren and Fofi to come into the room, please, with pens. So if you don't have a pen, so that you can get this filled out, we're going to do this very quickly. And let's take us through the presentation. Our goal today is to raise $2,500. And Sister Belinda gonna help me to get this done, because I know we got it in this room. We're gonna be able to do it in the next 5 or 10 minutes. We're gonna go eat lunch, then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna have a teach-in and hear about the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. We got lots more for you today. So I know it may seem a bit rushed and everybody's a little off because the time changed or whatever. They would wake up, catch up, and let's make it happen. So go ahead, $2,500. That's our goal for today.
We can do that, Sister Ikenye. I'm telling you, this has been a phenomenal presentation. I mean, our panelists just have been off the chain, and you can't put a price tag on a meeting like this. So come on, let's get that $2,500 in the pot so we can move it, take it farther with all of this good information that we're that's happening here today. So go ahead, Elikia. Let's tell them how we're gonna do that.
All right. So we have different giving levels. that, provides you a chance to contribute to the Black is Back coalition, either a one-time payment or a payment made in increments. We start high. Our first giving level is the Ya Asantewa level, which is $1,000 or more. We like to give a quote per person very quickly. We must face it. While we have been marching for jobs have been marching out of this country in search of new slaves in foreign countries. Jobs are marching into prisons where they can legally work 2 million racially profiled Black men and women to death again without pay. So if you want to make a contribution of $1,000 or more, you can do it in person, or you can visit blackisbackcoalition.org/donate. And by in person, I mean those in Washington, D.C. Our next level is the
Anybody here. Before you go, let's see if we got somebody that's gonna give us $1,000, and that's gonna be half of, just about half of what it is that we need. Anybody? Okay, somebody's out there. Keep going. Let's go.
All right.
They're out there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now. I know
You
they
know
are.
they're out there.
Yeah, you can do it online too. You don't have to, or you can be anonymous.
Yes, and I'm
Let's
also
go.
putting the link in the chats on YouTube and on Facebook, as well as if the vice chair can put it in Zoom, that would be very helpful. Our next level is Chokwe Lumumba, $500 or more. The quote says, "I only came to the movement because of King and he was killed. I only stayed in the movement because of Malcolm and he was killed. Then I became a leader." So that means that we have to take this fight up ourselves. Anybody able to make a $500 contribution, whether in Washington, D.C. or online? Let us know now. Let us know now.
Yeah, raise your hand, don't be shy, or if you want to be anonymous, that's okay too. Fill out that donor card that you have there. Anybody don't have a pen, raise your hand. We got Comrades Lauren and Comrades 4 feet over there. They can get you a pen. Make sure you got a donor card, whatever it is that you need. If you completed your donor card already, somebody please take their donor card. Let's go to the next one.
Uhuru. Our next level is a $365 level, or $1 a day. The Marcus Garvey level, which says a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. This is a very, very important quote, especially if you know how trees can regenerate themselves from their roots. So
yeah, Alicia, can you explain to them that they don't have to pay it all at once? They can pledge. Go ahead.
Right. Yes, you can make a pledge to donate this amount in increments or throughout the year. It doesn't have to be $365 in one go. And to do that, you would visit blackisbackcoalition.org/donate, or you can also call 786-505-9859, sometime during the week, and we can walk you through it.
You can also go to, if you want to do Cash App, we take Cash App. You can do $BIBCOA, $BIBCOA for Cash App. If you completed your envelope, raise your hand. If you are online, trying to do it online, you go to blackisbackcoalition.org/donate and make your contribution. We're going to be following that. Please bring me any completed donor cards that you have right now. Keep going, please.
All right. So our next level is the Amiri Baraka level, which is $120 or more. The quote is, "A man is either free or he is not. Therefore, there cannot be an apprenticeship for freedom." This is the Amiri Baraka level of $120 or more. Sister Lisa?
Yes, I'm gonna do that. It feels a little like cold in this chat room. I'm gonna start it up, but I'll do the Amiri Baraka, and I'm gonna have to do the installment plan, but I'm gonna do it.
Uhuru.
All right, so that's
those who are helping
and
us
I got
calculate, please write that down. Sister Lisa Davis for $120.
And we got Sister Amina here in the room at the Fannie Lou Hamer for $60. Thank you, Sister Amina. So we have 180. That's what I've counted already. So let's keep it going.
Uhuru, let me acknowledge some that I'm seeing online. We have Leah a regular, contributor to the Black is Back, has made a payment of $100. We have Penny Hess, chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, who has made a contribution of $100. We have
in the room, we have
$25.
Carol Locke. Keep going. I didn't hear you.
Uhuru. All right. So at the Fannie Lou Hamer, we have $60. Nobody's free until everybody's free.
Put me down, because nobody is free until everybody is free. And I know I got 100 more people out there that feel the same way I do with the Fannie Lou Hamer, $60. Come on, people, we can do this. We can do this. All we need is everybody to say nobody is free until everybody's free.
Uhuru, Sister Belinda Parker Brown.
We got Uhuru. We got 120 at the Amiri Baraka. Uhuru.
Who was that?
All right,
who was
Jesse
that other
Neville.
120? Sister Kinge?
Somebody in the room, I think she said.
Yeah, but she didn't say the name. But okay. Washington, D.C. seems frozen. For online, we have Lisa Watson, one of our Zoom engineers, who made a $100 contribution.
Lisa Watson, all right, Lisa.
Yes, we have Wendy Snyder from the Uhuru Solidarity Movement with a $25 contribution. Uhuru, we have Carol Locke for $120. Uhuru, Stephanie Midler, $50. Uhuru. I will continue. It seems like we lost Washington, D.C., but we can continue since this is a hybrid program. If you want to give, that's online at blackisbackcoalition.org/donate. You can make checks payable to BIBC, which represents Black is Back Coalition, or mail them to 4101 West Florissant, St. Louis, Missouri, 63115. The memo would be Black is Back Coalition. And so what I'm going to do is ask
we
Sister.
got a few more here in the room. Diane Charnay, $25. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Hold on 1 second, please.
You
We
know,
got Brother Keon Goldie, $60. That's at the Fannie Lou Hamer. Uhuru.
all right,
Uhuru.
Somebody count what else we got.
You know, I want to
So we lost a bit of connection for a bit, but what we will do is bring this to a close and correspond. Myself and Sister Ikinge will be, rallying totals from what we have. I can say that online, we have $100 from Reparations United and Brother Cam Howard. Uhuru, Brother Cam.
All right, Brother Cam, Uhuru.
And in the room here, we got Comrade Lisa Watson with $100.
Uhuru.
And we have someone that I guess is anonymous. Is that what that means when it says no name? I'm assuming that's what that means at
The Black is Back Coalition.
120. All right.
We have someone on YouTube. The name is
that's all right.
We have the name is Steph Ife, who will do $100. Uhuru Steph Ife on YouTube. Thank you for this contribution. BlackIsBackCoalition.org/donate.
Thank you, Uhuru.
Uhuru.
It's coming in. It's coming in. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it before the end of the day.
Man, and his wife Mona. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Hey, okay. All right, Mona. Got you, Comrade Mona. Thank you. All right.
We have Allison Haney from the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and African People's Solidarity Committee with $50.
Yeah,
Uhuru, Comrade Allison Haney.
Yes. All right, there we go.
I got CJ Lockett with the Fannie Lou Hamer at 60 in the individual membership.
All right.
Yeah, Uhuru.
Freedom, people.
This is Lucy Murphy. All right, the individual.
Lucy, all right.
Lucy.
Social justice, peace, and reparation. We gonna do this.
Keep it going. And this is anonymous. That's what
Okay.
wrote on the card, anonymous. 60
Uhuru, we have
and New Haven.
170 online from Marcus L. Robinson. I see the attempt, but I don't see the payment yet. So I will let you know when we see that. That's $170 from Marcus Robinson. Uhuru.
All right, Brother Marcus. Brother Marcus. All right, huh? That's what I'm talking about. Defend our right to free speech.
All right.
Black is back.
We got 13 seconds left, so we're gonna keep on. I mean, you can always 50 from Comrade, the African National Women's Organization. Yesterday, Owen Miller.
Yes, can you keep us updated? Can you keep us updated? We want to know when we reach our goal.
Yeah, we sure will.
Uhuru, yes, during the break, you know, we will be communicating, and before this program is over, definitely we will have a total that counts all of it.
Wonderful. All right.
Uhuru. Uhuru, we are at the time where we will have to move for our lunch break. Sister Ikinge, I'm gonna pass it to you because I'm pretty sure you have some instructions that you want to give, especially for those in person. Those online, we will find out how much time this break is, and we'll be coming back to this webinar accordingly. Uhuru.
Uhuru, if you are, well, obviously, if you're here in the room, lunch is Indian fare. Is that what you said? Indian fare. So we will have a meat option, and we also have a vegan option. We're asking a donation of between $10 and $15, depending on what it is that you're having. You can see the servers out there at the food station. We'll take cash or cash app. So can you give us 45 minutes to an hour? How much time we're gonna take?
Well, I was gonna ask how much will in person need. It's 2:00 even right now, on the East Coast.
45. Huh? 45 minutes.
45, okay.
Yeah.
So for those participating online, especially if you're on YouTube and Facebook, a new link will be started at 2:45 Eastern. Those on Zoom, we can get some instruction from the engineer, but 2:45 is when we will return with this program. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you. See you in 45 minutes. Can we pause it so we don't have